In this lesson, we're going to use our graphers to graph and find zeros and what's called relative and maximum minimums. We have already found zeros on our graphing calculator when we did our word problems in Chapter 6, and we found the maximum minimum values because we had parabolas. What's going to happen with these is we're going to have cubic functions, and so cubic functions have what are called maximum and relative minimums. And for example, a cubic function can look like this. There's an example of a cubic function. A relative maximum is the maximum point for a cubic function besides infinity. So if you look at this function, my maximum is actually infinity because this arrow is going to go up forever. But I have this hill right here. So that's called a turning point, and it's at the top of that hill is my relative maximum. It's not my maximum value because that's infinity, but it's one of my other highest points. So that's going to be something that we're going to look for in our calculator. The key thing to remember here is that it can be one or more or none or more than one. So we could have two relative maximums for something that goes like this. There'd be two hills there. Or we could have no relative maximums, and so it might just be something that kind of loops through and has nothing else besides infinity there. So you don't always have to have one. If you have more than one, you list all of them, not just the tallest, but you list them all. A relative minimum then says the same idea, except that's where the valley is. I call it a valley. Instead of a hill, it's the valley. The minimum value for this graph is negative infinity because that arrow goes on forever. But this little valley here is my relative minimum. So that's what we're going to be looking for today. Because with cubic functions, our maximum value is infinity and our minimum value, so think of y-axis, is negative infinity. So we're going to find those turning points or those hills. So looking back on our problem, the first one we're going to do is use number 1, and we're going to punch that. I know you guys don't have notes for this, and that's okay. I figured you could write this on the back of your notes from yesterday. I didn't want to waste paper for two problems. So I'm going to have you write that in the back of your notes from yesterday, and then you can put this in your calculator. So take your calculator out, and you're going to put this value in there. So go to y equals, and I'm going to put my calculator up here. And under y equals, we're going to punch in the value for b. So I'll go x cubed, x raised to the third, and then I'll go minus 5x squared plus 3x plus 2. So there's my function that I punched in my calculator, and when I hit graph, I'll see that cubic function's picture. Now remember, if you don't like where your graph is, you can always hit zoom 6 and it takes you back to the standard 10 by 10, which is what I just did with mine. So now hopefully you can see that we have some zeros we have to find. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So we're looking for where that graph crosses the x-axis. So if you don't remember how to do that, we're going to go through that right now. So you might want to write this down if you think you'll forget. I'm going to go second and then calculate. And that's looking red on my screen. You'll see where I push my last button. And I'm calculating the 0, so I'm going to hit 2. Remember, we have to follow the pattern of our graph. So I'm going to actually start mine down here a little bit. My first 0 is that first time it crosses the x-axis. So I'm following the curve of my graph. And I'm going to go close to that 0, but not too close. And it says left bound on my calculator. I hit enter. I cross the axis. So now I'm across that 0. I'm going to hit enter again. On the guess, you can go a little closer if you want, or you can just hit enter. And there's my first 0, negative 0.39. Remember, we round to hundredths whenever we're not told. So my first 0 is x equals negative 0.39. Then I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to calculate my second 0. I'm going to have to do this 3 times because I have 3 zeros. So I hit second, calculate again. I'm going to do a 0 again. And I continue along my curve here until I'm right before that 0. So here I'm still on the left side, but I haven't crossed the axis, so I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to cross the axis away from that 0, hit enter again, and then I go back close for my guess and I hit enter. So this 0 is 1.23. So my second x, 1.23. If you're getting an error message when you're doing this, it means that you're not going on the right side properly. So you have to go on the left side and then the right side. It's not bottom to top or top to bottom. So just follow the curve of your graph. My last one then, I'm going to go second, calculate, 0 again, and I'm going to keep going along this curve until I get closer to the next x-intercept. So that's where my graph crosses the x-axis. So right about here, I'll hit enter. I go across the axis. That's pretty good right there. Hit enter. On the guess part, I'll hit enter one more time. And I got my last 0 to be 4.16. So I go back to my notes. X equals 4.16. So now I need to find the relative maximums and the relative minimums. So to find that, I'm going to go to my equation again, or my calculator, and I'm going to go second, calculate, and I either want to do a maximum or minimum here. So let's just do the maximum first. So we're going to do the hill. So I'm going to pick 4, and my hill is way over here. Let's go back to the start of my graph. So right up there is my hill, right? That's where I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to the left side of my hill, and I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to go across the axis, or excuse me, over the hill. Hit enter again. For my guess, I can go right on top of the hill and hit enter. And this is now an ordered pair for my relative maximum. So it's 0.33 and 2.48. So I'd write 0.33, 2.48 as an ordered pair, and this is my relative maximum. So next I'm going to try and find my relative minimum. Now remember, you can have more than one of these. So if you have more than one, you go ahead and list all of them. If you have none, you say relative max, none. This one happens to have one of each. So I'm going to go into my calculator again and hit second, calculate, and this time I'm doing the minimum. I'm doing that valley. So I'm going to go to minimum, and I go down to my valley. So before I go into the valley, right before, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go through the valley, hit enter, and then for my guess, I'll go right at that lowest point where I think it is. And again, I'm going to get an ordered pair here. So that value, if I round with hundredths, it would be 3, -7. So my relative minimum is the ordered pair 3, -7. So what we've done here is if someone didn't see the picture of this, we've given them a decent picture. We know it crosses the x-axis at these 3 points right here, and we know the hill is here and the valley is here. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and try number 2. So I'd like you to hit pause, and then I want you to try to go ahead and see if you got the same answers as me. I'm just going to write the answers up there so you can see what they are, and then from there, if you have any questions or your calculator's not working or something's wrong, we'll have plenty of time tomorrow in class to take care of that. And then we can go through it. Okay? So hopefully for those of you that just did this one, when you're doing your zeros, I don't have my relative maximum done, so I'm doing that quick. My zeros I got for this problem, I think, let me make sure I have these on here. I got -3.62, x equals -1.38, and x equals 1. I'm going to double check those because I feel like one time that was off in the rounding, so I'll double check that quick. My relative maximum I just got on my calculator was 0.5. And then let me do my relative minimum quick. And my relative minimum I just got is -2.67 and -4.48. So hopefully you got that same thing when you did yours. If you didn't, you're going to want to come in and have me look at your calculator, because there could be some quick button I need to switch, and it's just giving you error messages after error message. And so if you get something like that, let me know.